Hey, today I'm breaking down how I was able to book over 300 sales calls for a sales team without using any ads whatsoever. I'm going to show you the structure on how you can use it for yourself and hopefully get more people in front of your sales team, get more conversions along the way, and add some revenue that's kind of hiding in plain sight. So if this is the first time joining one of my lives, I'm Brian Czekanski, and I help coaches and experts in particular monetize those buyers that already have sitting on their list, kind of that hidden revenue, bringing it to the surface. And one way I'm able to do that is by really having communications with those people that have already bought something from you, whether it's a $1 product, $7 product, $40 product, maybe $2,500 product. And we want to move them up to some of your higher ticket type of offers. So offers I deal with the most often are kind of that 10, 20, 30K type of offers. And I'm able to close those buyers along the way without using any funnels or sales calls whatsoever. But in this case, just because I know many business owners are kind of struggling to fill up their sales calls, their sales teams' calendars as much as possible on a consistent basis. This is something that kind of came up for me multiple times in working with clients along the way. You'd have those weekends where Facebook was down, or maybe their ad from a compliance perspective, their ad copy was down and they weren't able to fill up their calendars. They had to come to we had to get creative in terms of okay, how can we fill up these sales teams' calendars if our ads weren't delivering those leads and buyers that we were expecting over a weekend, over a couple days, whatever it is. So one of the things that I've done and kind of tested over multiple times now is using email. I've also used SMS as well. I can do a separate video on SMS if it makes sense. Let me know in the comments if that makes sense. But I love to just start with email. Email is probably the best way to start, especially if you've got a list of existing buyers, low ticket buyers, and you've got some type of higher ticket type of program. It could be anything from a couple $100s to $1,000 to kind of that higher ticket land that you're looking for. But ultimately, you want more appointments being booked with your sales team. Can be work synonymous with what you're doing from an ad perspective, or maybe cold email. Any of those things can work along the way. But we want to send out a message to your existing buyer list. And this could also go out to your leads. So if you have a free opt-in or something like that, we can send an email out to them as well. But what we're going to start with is kind of an apology. And this is what, in testing that I've done, this is what has been most successful. I'm kind of sharing it with you today. Using that subject line, I use the subject line, "I'm sorry," or if you're sending out from a team, "We're sorry." The reason an apology really works really well is most people, in your own life, you probably don't get a good number of apologies, even though you probably deserve one along the way. So a good apology, that when people actually mean it, it catches people's attention. So that subject line of "we're sorry" or "I'm sorry" is something that is really going to catch their attention. It's going to raise their curiosity. It's going to get really high open rates, and you're going to lead in right into that in your email. So again, in the case that I was testing out of, I was kind of starting out with this was somebody that bought an info product for the client that I was working for. And what I did was kind of start with "Hey, I know you bought this product, for most of the buyers that we're going out to, they bought it probably 30 days ago or even more than that." And I started out with an apology "Hey, I'm sorry that your experience wasn't the greatest, or wasn't the greatest that we were expecting." And the apology was really around, at the time, we were kind of expanding the sales team. So the sales team was continuing, we were trying to hire, our offer was doing so well that we were trying to hire more and more sales team members, and we were kind of struggling to do that. Anytime, you probably know as a business owner, trying to hire salespeople at a consistent basis is really hard. So we were going through that process of trying to expand our sales team to keep up with the offer and the results that we're getting, and to sell up some of those upsells. And we were doing a great job of that. So in their experience, I knew from their experience, again, 30 days ago or 45 days ago, that if they looked at the availability to book a call at that time, they probably found no spots or very few spots or something like that. So basically I started out with "Hey, anytime we have a buyer, we want to get you on this specific call." We called it an onboarding call. I guess, in hindsight, I wouldn't suggest that. I don't want to trick people on getting into a call. I did do a video a couple days ago on how you should really structure your sales calls and to promote them to your leads and buyers. So I'm not going to go into that today, but I'll link it up above in terms of that, but really think about like your sales call should have a specific offer around it. There should be value associated with it so that, again, in your own mind, you're using that sales call to sell your higher ticket offer. But even if that person says no, joins your call, says no, they should walk away with some type of value with that. There should be bonuses attached to that as well. So I go into that in that video linked above. I'm not going to go into that today, but like think about like that might be your apology. It might be just, okay, we had this call scheduled out right here. We weren't putting a lot of value and associating a lot of value into it. Here's your new opportunity. So like attach a new opportunity to joining that call. Again, it could be, whatever industry you're in, in terms of that, but like, what's that new opportunity, especially in terms of that higher ticket land? We want an opportunity to get them quicker, easier, faster results than maybe that lower ticket product than they bought right now. Get them into that, right? And that's kind of the proposition for getting them on that sales call. And then again, giving them a series of bonuses for when they show up, because again, if they just book a call and they don't show up, if you have a 65 or 75% show up rate, which is kind of the average for what I've seen, but we want to push that up a little bit. We want to attach specific bonuses so that if they do show up, and again, even if they say no, they walk away with really valuable stuff. They feel good about, in this case, booking a call, interacting with your team, and they might come back again 6 months from now, get back on the same call with a sales team member and decide like, okay, now I'm in the right place to book a high ticket call. So like, again, starting with that apology was really important to catch people's attention. Again, in my case, it was talking about like, hey, we just didn't have the availability. We didn't have, like, we were going through, and I kind of disclosed, we were hiring a lot of sales team members. We didn't have a lot of time and availability to service you at that time, to offer you that call that we have offered to every other buyer in the past, but we have that ability now. And we apologize for that poor experience, but we want to offer you this again to you right now. Here's the opportunity set in terms of going through that. And then below that, again, important for your sales call is like, how can you reveal a problem, in thinking about your prospects' problems, how can you reveal kind of the true source of their problem? You have to detail it in great detail, but how can you reveal something that they might not even have known of before? It might be associated with that low ticket product that they bought, but how can you reveal that and talk about in your solution an opportunity that can get them quicker, easier, faster results on the other side? And the first step for that is like joining a call. And again, put a unique name around that, a unique benefit set around that name. Use some creativity to get them excited about that opportunity and actually showing up for your call, and not just thinking like, oh, they're just tricking me to get on a sales call and going in that way. So again, attaching value to that, not just tricking people get on the sales call, is going to set up your sales team members to be a lot more successful, but also work into your script how you can build in some value along the way. If it's a half-hour call, 45-minute call, especially for new buyers in your program, how can you make them feel welcome? How can you let them know that they're part of a new community and that they're going to get the results they're looking for, whether they join your high ticket program or not? And then the other thing I did, again, so we start with the apology. We kind of get into and remind them of that new problem that they didn't know existed and how you can get them quicker, easier, faster results. This doesn't have to be a ton of lines. It could be 1 or 2 lines in terms of that. We're really teasing, using curiosity to get people to join that sales call. And then what I did is really personalized testimonial below that. So we want some proof around that quicker, easier, faster opportunity. So what I did is provide proof around that. So we were able to kind of segment our list based on a variety of different factors. You might not have that ability. So if you don't have the ability to segment your list based on the different sets of people that you might have on your list, what I would suggest is instead of having one specific testimonial, maybe put 2 or 3 in there that kind of cover your bases in terms of like, if you're going to break down your list into 2 or 3 segments, how can we break them down? And how can we share like really short testimonials? Again, these might be 3 to 5 lines at most, kind of sharing a transformation. If you can include some images as well, like what you really want to do is kind of show them, like, again, tell them the transformational story of somebody just like them, but also show them an image of, again, they want to be able to see and hear from somebody that is just like them. They're, again, remember, anytime somebody jumps on a sales call, especially from a high ticket perspective, their number one objection is, can this person help me with my unique situation? So if you're able to reflect back a little bit of their story and show them a visual of somebody that looks exactly like them in terms of age, in terms of what they look like, in terms of what the problem they're going through. This is a little bit easier in terms of like the health space and some other spaces, but even in personal development, even in real estate, other ways, like there's easy ways to just show an image along with that transformational story to get that going through. And again, you might test out those 3 transformational stories that you have all together. But again, starting with that apology at the top, you can, again, just use the easiest thing to do is say like, hey, you might not have had the right experience in the past. Again, if you've just kind of promoted your calls as just like sales calls or haven't promoted any value around that, that's an easy way to like, hey, we apologize. We didn't attach a lot of value to, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call that onboarding call or that welcome call, or, again, put some benefit to it. But now we've kind of created a new way of welcoming you in the community. We want to introduce you to this new opportunity, which is X, Y, and Z, and we want to share a little bit of these testimonials. Like again, 2 or 3 testimonials that speak to the exact people on your list. If you can segment between women and men on your list, that's always helpful. But again, personalizing and segmenting is going to allow them to start to feel like, hey, this person can finally help me, can solve my problem, get to the solution that I'm looking for, and starts to build that visualization of in their head of like what that dream world looks like and how you can help them along the way. So hope that was helpful in terms of a structure to potentially use. Again, I've tested a bunch of these along the way, and I'll share in future videos some other email structures that you can use. And again, if it's helpful, let me know in the comments if an SMS type of structure would be helpful. Again, there'll be a lot less characters. We have to be very cognizant of what words and phrases we're using in that, but I can give you a structure that works there as well. But again, kind of starting with that apology and saying like, hey, whatever your experience was, 30 days ago, 45 days ago, whenever they bought your product, how you've kind of rethought that in terms of your sales team, in terms of that sales call, and kind of putting it up in an offer. And again, I'll link above that video that I kind of went through in detail how you should think about presenting your sales call and doing it in a way for people to actually show up and be excited for that. And then getting into specific testimonials that speak to their situation. Again, if you can use images to let them see and also hear from some of those stories, that's always helpful as well. In the example that I went through today, I had images, but also some really short testimonials that used kind of the exact language that demographic of people or that segment of people would use. So it kind of spoke their language. They saw an image of somebody that looked exactly like them, talking about the transformation that they're looking for, talking about the problems they're dealing with right now, and then kind of ended with like, okay, here's a book to call the link at the bottom, and present, like, again, putting some urgency to that as well. Like saying like, hey, we've got spots, we've got spots this week that are open, but we're not sure how long these are going to last, especially as you go through. So hope that was helpful in terms of booking more appointments, especially if you're running ads. This is a great way to just start testing in terms of maybe email or SMS. How can we continue to fill up your sales team's capacity, especially if they're sitting there and they have some appointments, they have some availability. Let's start sending some of those leads to them and start testing out these structures to see if, again, if Facebook's down, if Google's down for whatever reason, you have that backup plan in terms of like, okay, we're continuing to send leads to people, and that's really working.